Greetings, everybody. I'm here to talk to you today about my good friend, Mr. Carl Baldassarre, or as I like to say it, Mr. Carl Baldassarre. When you have a nice Italian name, you got to put your fingers together like this. You do a little bit of this. You say Baldassarre. Carl composed the Prelude on my record, Invisible. And back in 2020, June of 2020, I released Invisible. It was the height of the pandemic, the lockdowns, all the stuff that we all lived through. But once things calmed down a little bit, I took a ride out to Carl's home to bring him a copy of the record so he could hear his piece on vinyl. It's a great listening experience to hear this record on vinyl, recorded and mixed by Mark Hornsby with DPA microphones. Oh, this piece recorded at Abbey Road Studios in London with a group of incredible musicians, conducted by Rick Wentworth and mastered by Ken Love. If you haven't heard it, shameless plug here, go to nickdivirgilio.com, pick yourself up a copy. But get Carl's reaction to hearing his piece for the first time, which is really cool. Then I interview Carl because Carl's story is great. If you don't know who Carl is, you should check it out. He's a great guitar player, great composer, great songwriter. We've recorded 70 some odd songs together. There's a lot of music that Carl's put out there. You got to check it out. Then we go to Carl's piano in his lounge, and he takes us through the whole composition process of how he came up with the Prelude, taking themes and melody ideas from other parts of the record and making the Prelude. It's a really cool educational experience. And then finally, from Abbey Road Studios, from the control room, looking down onto the orchestra, we watch a pass through of the orchestra playing the song. And it's just so cool to have been there. I'm so blessed to have had that opportunity. So I'm going to stop talking now. Check out the video. I hope you enjoy it. Take care, everybody. There's the record. I don't think you've seen it yet.
No, I haven't. It's amazing. I saw the picture, but I didn't see it actually in physical product. It looks amazing. And it's heavy in more ways than one.
Yeah, man.
Thank you so much. This is fantastic. I can't wait to crack it open and put it on my vintage turntable. So okay if I pop it on?
Dude, yeah, of course.
Oh, it's clear!
It's invisible.
What? It's invisible. Oh.
See that?
See what he did there, people? Oh, that's hilarious. Oh my gosh.
Love that sound.
I know. This is the listening zone here. The only major triumph there. Sounds amazing, my brother. My gosh, it really I didn't hear the transition. Oh my gosh, that is exciting.
Pretty cool.
I never heard that transition. That sounds, it's perfect. That prelude is damn perfect.
That's right, it is.
Listen to this. Hanging out.
The sun is bright, so bright, so bright I'm blinded. The air is fresh, so fresh I can barely breathe. I can barely breathe. Is this another planet? Planet I've walked into? Is this the world that was always, always so out of view? Always so out of view. 'Cause I'm gone, I'm out. I finally made my move. There's got to be much more to see. So much I want to prove to me. Throw out the clutter and debris. 'Cause I'm gone, I'm out.
Cheers, Carl Baldassarre.
Cheers, Nicky D.
Hey, man. So thank you so much for hanging out with me in your boathouse. This is an amazing hang here. You've built quite a little place for yourself. And what I'd like to know and tell people who are watching is, I mean, you've been playing music for your whole life,
Yeah.
right? And you got out of it, went into business and did this kind of stuff. So where did your passion for classical music and learning those sorts of instruments, how to arrange, how to write for those things, the sounds, where did that all stem from? Because you were in a rock band early as a kid, you know, so
Yeah.
how did that come to pass?
I just think it was, it was in me from the beginning. I mean,
Okay.
because, when I was listening to music, even when I was 8, 9, or 10 in the mid-'60s, I remember hearing all those big string arrangements, from Frank Sinatra and Jackie Gleason. That was kind of the soundtrack back then. And I always had an affinity for classical music, even though, like you said, I was definitely into the rock music and rock guitar. It's just, I can't put my finger on it other than it was just kind of always something I liked doing and liked hearing. And then it was a matter of just, perfecting the craft a little through trial and error, a lot through, some having great professional teaching.
So stop right there. Did you go to music school or college, or
Yeah, so-
where did the teaching come from?
Well, so I did prep school when I was a kid.
Right.
So I went to the Cleveland Music School settlement, and I did some work then out of the Cleveland Institute of Music, which is a conservatory of music. Although I didn't get my degree there, but I did study intensely composition, theory, harmony, all that stuff.
Okay.
I just always had a love. I think it stems from math. I like math. I like logic, and structure. Probably because I didn't have any structure as a kid.
Okay.
So I think maybe it's an interesting question now that I think about it, that I think it was the structure of the classical form and structure of an orchestra and structure of music in general, whether it's rock or anything. There's a form to it.
Sure.
And I think I like that. It just makes me feel safe, and I can kind of control that environment.
And who are some of your favorite composers? You've told me this before, but who do you really love to listen to, even to this day?
Well, it's always changing. Like anybody who answers the question, who's their favorite? I mean, I was grounded in the classical musicians like Bach, and then the classical romantic era was really my favorite era. So it would have been Beethoven. All these names, the dead war horses. But it was Beethoven, Brahms, Schubert, Schumann, Bruckner, Mahler. Those were kind of the big ones, and I think that I spent a lot of time in Europe, kind of walking in their footsteps and really trying to like almost like a method actor, really to write that way. I wanted to actually understand their life, and that's what I do in all my writing. It's really kind of method acting, trying to get into the want of a character. I wanted to understand their lives, so I did that. And then I'd say more recently in the 20th century, it's almost kind of my evolution, maturity as a composer and writer, longing for more stuff to do. Just like what happened in the 20th century when Ravel came in Debussy, they started adding 9th and 11th, and then you get into Schoenberg where they start breaking the tonal system down and there's no tonal system anymore. Mm-hmm. And then you have this wonderful recovery in the mid-last century. My most recent, the more recent famous composers would be like, Bernstein and then Bacharach and those kind of people, even and then into more contemporary popular ones like Jimmy Webb or whatever, who use a lot of orchestral sort of things in their music. So I kind of evolved and have grown through my styles, and my tastes have grown through the centuries, but I think I was grounded in just the real founding fathers of classical music.
That's very cool. So when you spent a lot of your life and your career in business, right? Not music.
Yeah.
But during those years, were you still studying music, or did you give it up totally?
No, I studied all the time. I studied at night. I had different professors that I just had friendships with, and they would keep teaching me. I had one guy early on, Dante Picciotti, who was a retired professor of music. Dante Picciotti, he really was great. He taught me counterpoint and all that. I just fell in love with it. And then the other thing, just to kind of correct the perception, is that even though I kind of crossed over into business, the whole goal was to not be poor anymore, because I grew up poor, right? So, but I was doing music at night, but I also was moonlighting a little bit in music. I never really was 100% in music, in business, even though I was good at it. It was one of those things I was really good at, but I also did it as a musician.
Okay.
I did it as, I was successful in business because I could hear, and I could solve problems, and it was very logical. Again, that structure and form was there. And I had a decent little sort of progressive rock band that actually some people know was called Syzygy.
Right.
Put out 4 albums, had a #1 album for a brief stint in Germany, to be #1 even for a week, to be #1, and had fantastic critical reception in that band. And that was all this home cooking stuff,
Okay.
So I kept that alive because on the progressive side, at least it let me kind of just, hone my chops a little bit, and get a little bit of classical stuff going there and still have fun kind of, rocking out too. Sure. So did that. It was really hard though. I only put out 4 albums over like 25 years or something.
Oh, okay. So yeah. I did have it wrong. I thought it was more, so it lasted longer than I realized.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So, but then I, ultimately, I'm back right where I started, composing, playing, writing, recording, the whole bit, full time. Feel great about doing it.
It's good. You have some amazing music. So we've recorded how many songs together now?
More or less 72 in the last 3 years, 72 tracks. Yeah.
So we'll tell the story to everybody here. So we met at a Sweetwater recording workshop.
Yep.
You came while I was recording the song "Where's the Passion" with Jordan Rudess. On
Jonas, on bass.
And Randy was there as well.
Randy was there, yep.
Yeah. So that's where we first met. Mm-hmm. And then you decided to come. We sort of met.
I was aware of you from Spock's Beard,
okay.
So I was, what's the word? I was sort of like, you were kind of, I was idolizing you, quite a bit. You turned out to be such a chill dude, though. But yeah, that's where we first met.
Cool. And then you decided to come and record your stuff at Sweetwater with us.
Yeah, so I was kind of like looking around because I knew I wanted to start writing and recording again, and really up the game.
Right.
Because I was doing a lot of local recording, but I really wanted to take it to the next level, and I was on the prowl for studios. Well, I heard about the master class. I thought, well, this would be a good way to check out the studio. I loved, your music. I thought, okay, this is going to be music that I love, and I'll be able to see how it sounds, And that's kind of was the first and last visit I made to any studio, because I was taken with the sound and what was coming out of there, and thought maybe this could work. And it's a 4-hour drive, which is always better than flying.
Right. Yeah, we've done a ton of stuff. Now your music's going to be out relatively soon now, finally.
Yeah, so going to hit the world with 7 albums here. I'm trying to figure out how to put them out, but I have 7 albums in material. 5 are all original, and then there's 2 compilation albums.
Right.
And so it's Yeah, it's going to be stay tuned, world.
And then, I mean, taking it full circle, back to my record, you wrote the Prelude, and we got to hang out at Abbey Road.
That was so
and
fun,
hear that
dude.
orchestra play your composition. And you've heard them play a lot more of your composition.
Yes.
But for me, it was incredibly special because I've only been in that studio one time before, just listening, never working.
Wow.
And then going there in the Beatles room and being in there and then seeing those musicians perform that stuff. I mean, literally, like the first time they read through the score,
It's insane.
it almost sounded perfect.
I know.
I mean, obviously they were just getting into it and they did it a few times and stuff. But I mean, just they're so professional, and they're so every one of them is tip-top shape player, right? It's like, and the sound in that room is just incredible.
It is. It's borderline miraculous when you see those players sight read from cold. I mean, session is at 10 o'clock, 5 to 10, they're unpacking their violins. Downbeat at 10, it's like, wait, what? You just read that? You know, because you brought them some kind of nutty stuff, you know, and I bring them nutty stuff all the time, and they're used to, you know, playing a lot of football's long soundtrack stuff. And it was great watching it happen there, hearing my music, you know, for your album, and hearing you hear your music. And you didn't touch the ground. You know, we were both floating around. We were both floating, you know. Totally. And boy, and this just the history of that room. And you have to be there, don't you, to really appreciate it. When you're actually down that historic staircase and you're listening to your music light up in that room, it's Eleanor Rigby, man. I think the echoes are still there.
Oh, completely.
It sounds phenomenal. Yeah.
Good fun.
Everybody should be so lucky, right?
I know, for sure.
And we have to give a shout out to our orchestrator friends who make it all happen, like Hinchy for your charts and Gene Knifick for my. Just two brilliant people. You know, you can't do it all. It takes a team.
Totally.
You know.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. John took a few of my ideas. I mean, the other where there's strings on the rest of the record in brass. You know, I had very sort of basic ideas for certain things and sent him stuff, and he just elaborated on that. Arranged it for all the instruments.
It was beautiful.
And it's really beautiful.
And make sure that everything you want can actually be played, because the last thing you want when you've got an orchestra on the clock is say, sorry, we don't have that note on our instrument. Right. We can't have that. Been there, done that.
Right. Trial and error, right?
Yeah.
Totally.
Right. Yeah, but no, Gene Knifick and John Hinchy have both done stuff on my work, and grateful to them.
For sure. Cool, man. Well, this is awesome. Let's go and get into how you sort of came up with the Prelude.
Okay.
All right.
Great. It'll be fun. All right, man.
So when we sat down in the studio and you played me the demos,
right,
and you gave me the whole story,
right,
okay, and I got the plot line, which is a great plot line, and I had heard the theme "Where's the Passion" before, knew I wanted to work with that theme and take a chunk of it,
sure,
because it could be really stretched out. Really, the most important part of writing for me was actually getting the emotions of the character. It wasn't about manipulating too much of the music, because I'm writing a prelude,
sure,
and that's what you're going to do,
right,
is take us through the journey and manipulate it. I just want to introduce the audience to the character as he stands at the beginning, and that character is a character who is on a journey of self-discovery. He's feeling closed in. These are the impressions I got, right?
Sure,
He's feeling closed in. He wants to be heard. He wants to have a voice, but he's uncertain. He's indecisive. There's a lot of tension and struggle in the character. There's a lot of motion, but lack of direction. But there's still little glimmers of hope. And those are my basic sort of impressions when you introduce me to this character.
That's amazing that all those things came to your head just from us talking. So that's great.
Yeah. Well, I listened to the album with you too,
right.
so I watched him go through this evolution, this journey, right?
Right.
because this is a journey of self-discovery, one of the great plot lines of all time. And so then how do you make those emotions musical? What does it sound like if somebody's on a journey of self-discovery and is in a reflective and insightful mode? Well, the first thing I think about is tempo and rhythm.
Okay.
If somebody's in a self-reflective mode, they're not going to go, you know, dun, 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 dun. That's a more of a victorious, very forceful thing. You're going to, you know, kind of take out the rhythm and really lay it down. So it's immediately we have somebody that's in a reflective and insightful mode. That's our character right there. And he's feeling closed in. Okay, that was the other impression I got of this guy, feeling closed in, and he's lacking decisiveness. So in music, you know, the quality of the chords are likely going to come from the third of a chord. So rather than give you this character, you know, making these major declarations or minor declarations, this guy's actually stuck in between. So what does that sound like? Well, it sounds like this. It's clusters of chords where there's lack of definition. So, you know, you got... You know, you have these clusters, and so that basically I was trying to just, you know, give you that guy that's, you just don't know where he's at. He is, because he doesn't know where he's at. That was really critical.
Now, these things on how you built the track and built these, the tension and the release and the mood with your notes, is this stuff that you learned naturally, or this is?
There's a whole. You could take an entire course in a conservatory
in this sort of thing.
Yes, it's called drama and music, and literally every sound can characterize a character. So, like for example, if you're going to have you want a piece of music and you want it to be about young love, the tempo is going to be faster. If you're going to tell the story of a mature love, it's going to be slower. Just by tempo, I can give you the age of the characters. I can give you a setting. I can also, by using, you know, just keys and tonality, I can tell you, is it indoor or outdoor? You know, if it's an outdoor during the day, we're going to have some major sounds. If it's indoor, maybe at night, I'm going to have some minor sounds. And so the idea is, what I do is I make a laundry list of the character. Then I apply, and there's like basically 10 rules of drama in music. And so they include, you know, spacing. For example, if somebody is feeling closed in, like your character is closed in, you know, the spacing of the notes are going to be close. They're not going to be, you know, lovely open chords with wide spacing, you know, they're going to be closed in. So closeness of spacing. Registration is going to tell you that this character's, he's male, you know, he's he's not, you know, but there is a point on this character, at the same point when he was rising, okay, he's rising to reach to the stars, and you start to see in himself, and you get to that major, that's the high point note, and it's actually a boy's voice. It's almost getting back to who he was in a sense, and the only way that he would hit that note would be like a choir voice. So way up there. So there's a little bit of time travel there too. But all these things come down to what's called drama in music, and there's a number of tools, and I was just applying that. The important thing where I started was getting the character, but knowing how to color it to really make you kind of feel him, you know. And that was just my job, to introduce you to the character, and I was just using very hundreds of years old sort of techniques to make that happen. So the two lyrics that you had, which I thought were key to telling the story, the first one was dig down and reach up to the stars and you'll find the peace within yourself. The more important one from the beginning of telling the story, you ask, what's your story? If you had to write it, would it have a sad or happy ending? Now, thinking about the drama in music, that's exactly what's missing here. You know, he's trying to figure out a story, but he doesn't know.
Doesn't know what it's going to be.
Yeah. So that's where we're getting caught in these colors. He's trying to write a story. Will it have a sad or happy ending? Well, guess what? His is stuck in between, and it's not finished. So that quote really kind of drove the uncertainty of the character. I think the other thing that I like about how the melody looks like the character to me is that he has these gradual motions upward, okay? And it repeats that twice. A little higher. He ends on a little higher note there, right? But then he starts to go backwards. Goes down,
Right.
And then he gets a little higher though. So he's just back and forth. He's ending on a higher note but going backwards. And then we have this big fall. That's a Phrygian cadence, and what makes that work so well is that you've got this. It's just basically a half-step move. And it's kind of mournful.
Sure.
You had that
Yeah.
half-step move. It's a Phrygian cadence. So I had basically, if you listen to the first pass through, it's up, it's down, it's down, and actually the whole melody is longer than you think. The whole melody of the first thing is actually a big block here. I'll play it for you here. That's 1/4 of it. A higher note. Gets to another peak, and then he slips. And the cadence. That's one sentence right there.
Sure.
It's not as short as you think, you see? And that kind of tells you the story of his life with these ups and it's these downs. The other thing that's happening, which is very human in this, is the breathing sound that's happening. Now this is an orchestration. Listen to the breathing of the orchestral arrangement. Very human.
It does. It is amazing.
Very, very human. And if you look at the score, you'll see, the hairpins and they're literally reading this cold and grabbing those dynamics. That's what makes these guys at Abbey Road amazing.
I know.
Because they're reading it with expression. Now he's entering the second story. It's getting a little deeper, but he's still breathing. It's getting dark. Sense him struggling, I know. And then we have the fall. Now his voice emerges, solo cello. That's his real self right there. You often give a character an instrument, and he's the cello. Oh, Ian Burridge at the Abbey Road. He's gathering confidence here. You can hear him gathering confidence. And this is where we get into the lyric, dig down and reach up to the stars. You find the peace of mind in yourself. But it's clusters all the way up. For the first time, we have him. And you hear he's all whole, but he's a little gentle fall back. And then your last song of the album. Sing it, Nick. Know the way. But not quite, Nick.
Almost.
Because he's not going to give you a third. And there you have it. That's Prelude number 1.
Oh, fantastic, man.
Virgilio, baby.
Thank you, Carl.
You're welcome.
Awesome
It was
stuff.
an honor and a pleasure. It's beautiful lyrics, beautiful thematic movement. I could have in fact, I have manipulated it many times. If you'd like to hear, I've got a whole bunch of other fugues that I've written off of it and everything else.
That's awesome.
It's great, dude. All because of you.
Thank you, brother.
You're welcome, man. Rolling, are we? Indeed. Here we go. 2, 3.
What's your story? If you had to write it, would it have a sad or happy ending? Sudden sadness can turn to gladness.